Shabbat Shalom. So, this is I don't know how rare an occurrence it is that the seventh day of Pesach is also Shabbat, but it's not every year. Yes.
It's about 11%.
11% of the time. How many years out of the cycle? I don't know. How frequent is that?
21 years.
1 out of every 21?
20 more years.
Okay. It's a rare occurrence in our lives. So that means that on this Shabbat, Shirat Hayam, the song sung at the sea, coincides with Shir HaShirim, the song, I don't even know how to describe it, the song of all songs. And so I want to talk a little bit about song and singing. And I had a lot of trouble deciding how to structure this. So I'm going to, I think, do it like I would singing and try some things and then respond to what comes from you guys. So I want to start with singing a song because it's not a good idea to talk about singing if you're not singing. So just follow me. I think most of you know this, I think, or enough of you know this that it shouldn't be talked about. Pause for a second. How's that so far? Familiar? Unfamiliar? Unfamiliar?
Yes.
Familiar and unfamiliar? It's hard to know also, like, the songs that I've sung since I was 3 at my family Seder. I'm like, well, everybody knows that. We'll try it again. Let's try it this way. I know we did a similar thing at the Song of the Sea, but I'd like us to try to get closer together. So I think the easiest way would be for me to move here, and then for people to come as close to that as possible, which could be standing, or could be sitting.
That's a problem for people who try to listen to the live stream.
I know. So then I can stand here, and people can stand around me. Yeah, let's do that. I'll take a minute. There's probably more space here. So get as close as you feel comfortable, and then take 2 steps closer. Yeah, a little bit uncomfortable. I didn't realize this would be at the center.
Exactly.
ay, 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 Be easier for a few words, maybe. Bechol dor vador. Chayav Adam lirot. That's Chayav Adam lirot. Et atzmo. Ki'ilu hu yatsa mimitzrayim. Every generation, we're each obligated to see ourselves as if we personally left Egypt. Bechol dor vador. Chayav Adam lirot. Chayav Adam lirot et atzmo. Ilu yasa, Ilu yasa, Ilu yasa, Mitzrayim. Bechol dor vador, Chayav Adam lirot, Chayav Adam lirot et atzmo. Ilu yasa, Ilu yasa, Ilu yasa, Mitzrayim. Bechol dor vador, Chayav Adam lirot, Chayav Adam lirot et atzmo. Ilu yasa, Ilu yasa, Ilu yasa, Mitzrayim. Okay, I think we can sit down. You can stand. I want to ask, aside from being a little bit more familiar with the tune because we did it a few more times, how was the second way different for you than the first way? What did you say? Anisha, what did you say?
I could feel the seed in the song.
You could feel the
As
seed.
it goes up,
Okay.
down.
The closeness changes the sound.
The closeness changes the sound. You want to say another word about
There
that?
was an echo or a fullness from the root
Mm.
when we spread it.
When you're spread out, there's more of it.
No, we were closer.
When we're closer together, we can hear more of each other and
It was
more
like
of the
singing
space.
with one voice.
Mm-hmm.
More like singing.
More like singing with one voice. Yes, French.
I mean, two things. First of all, just the singing of it like that takes it out of the head idea and into an emotional experience.
Mm-hmm.
And like to then feel that emotionality with people close, it becomes an experience, not an idea.
So the second time we did it when we were close together, it helped you feel it more and less thinking.
Yeah, it was an experience, not just an idea.
An experience, not just thinking. Anyone else? Deeper.
Communal.
More communal.
I understood the contours of the melody more
Uh-huh.
by having the language. Like, I really like the places where the word on small,
Mm.
because I was just like, oh yeah, like this ends of these phrases, like it makes sense of like the actual emotional. For me, the emotional with that text.
Okay, so for me also, I find it easier to connect to and learn songs when they're connected to words, and it's easier for me to understand the ups and downs of the tune when I see where that falls on the words, and helped you connect to it, which helped you feel it. Okay, so the question I want to ask, related both to Shir Shirim and Shirat Hayam, I think we all recognize moments in our life in song when we fully feel it and we're fully able to express the song and we're able to sing with our whole bodies and our whole selves. And I think we also recognize that doesn't happen every time. So the question I want to ask is, what is it that stops you? What is it that stops us? But really I want to ask each of you, what is it that stops you from singing more fully, like from putting your whole self into what you are singing? And it doesn't have to be, some flaw in you. It could be something structural or something you're feeling. But what are some things that stop you? You can derive that from what was easier the second time, or if it wasn't easy for you either time, well, what makes it difficult to put yourself into the song?
Being distracted by extraneous thoughts.
Being distracted by what else is going on in your head?
Yeah.
Okay. Especially if you have something weighing on you?
Yes.
Okay, we'll come back to that, yeah.
I think songs are associated sometimes with memories,
Mm-hmm.
and some of them can be bad memories.
Right. I did a lot of reading in Jody Weisenberg's 2 books, Torah of Music and Building Singing Communities. And it's very short. And he talks a lot about, like, one of the things that's difficult for people singing Jewish tunes is how many memories there are associated with them, which can bring up something you don't want to feel in that moment. It can make you want to separate from it. Anything else? Maybe from the sides that I don't usually look at. Yeah.
Maybe if there are like other distractions going on.
Like in the room, other distractions? Yeah, for sure. I think it's very difficult when there's like a plane going by.
Not understanding.
So wanting to connect to the words, but finding that difficult because on a linguistic level or just being unfamiliar with it, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sometimes some of the tune would remind me of another tune that would remind me of something sad.
Uh-huh.
So it's like not that tune,
Uh-huh.
but it reminded me of another tune that reminded me of that.
So even if you don't have a memory of that specific tune, it might bring you through association somewhere you don't want to be in that moment. Yeah.
Joey teaches that it takes you 20 times to sing a melody and
Yes.
actually know it and you can sing it.
Yes. He talks about that a lot in this book, Building Singing Communities.
And until you get to that point, you're still depending on other people to cue you about the melody. But until you know the melody yourself, you really can't internalize it.
Yes. I will say I took a bit of a risk because I sort of...
Can you just reflect that back?
Yes. While you're learning a song, it's very difficult, if not impossible, to put your full self into it because you're still listening, you're still trying to learn, still in that process, and it takes you maybe 20 times, maybe more, to internalize it and then be able to produce it and also sing through it. If I did that exercise with a song that everybody knew, maybe it would feel different, but maybe it would feel similar also, where you're still trying to listen to other people. Yeah.
So if you know another melody to the song and you sing it as a duet with your daughter during your Seder, then it sort of interferes with learning the Seder.
Yeah. When you hear the words and you're like, oh, I know a really good tune for this and I have so many positive presents with that, and your mind's up there. Okay, so far I'd say we've grouped them into a couple different categories. So I think one big category is distraction. Or maybe absorption in something else. Like I have a lot weighing on me, or I'm trying to learn it. And the third one I think is it's bringing me somewhere I don't want to be emotionally. So I don't want to step into it. Yes, Ben.
The songs that you do know, holding back what everyone else is like.
Okay, this is a big problem for me. One of the reasons that I find it difficult at Bonet to sing with my full self during tefillot is because I don't want to overpower other people. And I don't want to be like the leader from over there. And it's hard for me to figure out also as the assistant rabbi, like, it's my role if I actually do know this tune. How should I support the leader? But I want to make sure that everybody has like equal power. I don't know if everybody experiences that, maybe sometimes. Shoshana as a musician. Okay. I'm going to loop this back to Shirat Hayam. If we can set the scene, the people had their first Seder, they, tied their belts, they put their sandals on, they grabbed whatever they could grab. They left at midnight, they walked for a while, The text indicates that they are feeling actually kind of confident. It says, Halchu b'yad ramah. They're going with an outstretched arm. But they come to the sea, and they notice that the Egyptians are coming up behind them. There's an angel and a pillar of fire in front of them that moves to the back of them to protect them. They still don't know what to do. Even Moshe doesn't know what to do. And he calls out to God, and God says, why are you calling out to me? Just go. And he's like, that's a weird suggestion. So the tension builds, and it builds all night. And there's sort of this, there's not really a battle, because there's just this block between the Egyptians and the Israelites, which is this pillar of cloud and this angel. But there's this waiting that we don't know what's going to happen. And it builds and builds and builds. And finally, when the sea does split, and they go through, and then the Egyptians chase them, and the sea closes up on the Egyptians, some versions, some interpreters say that they started singing as they were crossing, or they started singing after they crossed. But either way, it's this sense of the tension building, and then releasing this cathartic explosion. I like to think of this moment, and I like to think of the whole Seder night also, as like when you're watching a really good sports movie or show. And my favorite type of sports show is shows about soccer. And the whole match, it's been back and forth. It's not obvious that someone's going to win. There's a lot on the line for these people and for all of their fans. And somebody takes this decisive drive down, and he shoots, he scores, and what happens? Everybody explodes. Crowd goes wild. That moment is how I imagine the song at the sea. That there's this tension building up within them, and then it explodes out. And the moment before it explodes out, it's almost as if there's a danger to them if they don't sing. That if they held it in, that would be, it could harm them. That there's an obligation to sing, like they had to get it out. It's not just singing, is an eruption of what's inside of you, but it's also sometimes, if you don't sing it out, it doesn't get expressed, and that it could turn sour, it could turn inward. Are you agreeing with me? Okay. At least that's my view of it. And there's another sense related to that they had an obligation to sing. That not only are they singing out of a truly felt sense of gratitude and freedom, but also that if they didn't sing, that wouldn't be true, and it wouldn't be recognizing what's happening for them in their lives. I want to bring just two sources related to that. At the end of Magid, where we're building the dramatic tension with a lot of talking and not knowing exactly when we're going to end, the last bit of Magid, right before we erupt into two songs of Hallel and then Eat, which I think is the zenith, the top of something?
Pinnacle.
The pinnacles of the evening, the building dramatic tension, and the crowd erupts, and then you get a meal, which is nice. What it says right before that, well, you have two songs, and then the meal, so in case. The Fichach, so this is right after B'chol Dover Dor Chayav Adam Lirot Tatzmo Ilu Yatza Mitzrayim. And every generation was obligated to see oneself as one who personally went out from Egypt. Not only were our ancestors redeemed, but even we were redeemed. Therefore, the Fichach, Anachnu Chayavim Lehodot, Lehalel, Leshabeach, Lefaer, Leromem, Lehader, Levarech, Lealeh, Ukales, Lemisha Asal Avotenu V'lanu V'kol Nisim Ha'edu. Therefore, we have an obligation, Chayavim, to thank, to sing, to praise and honor, to glorify and bless, to raise up and acclaim the one who has done all these wonders for our ancestors and us. So what's the source of that obligation? It relates to me for the feeling that if they didn't sing, it would harm them. But also it wouldn't be recognizing what's happening for them. One other source I want to bring for that. There's a section in the Talmud in Sanhedrin where it talks about a bunch of times where history could have ended and we could have entered the Messianic period, but we missed it. And one of the reasons we missed it, so the king Hezekiah, this is one of the many kings we had, he had won a great battle and he sang, that was great. Then he won another battle and he didn't sing. So I'm just going to read this quote. The Holy Blessed One wanted to make Hezekiah the Messiah. The attribute of judgment came before the Holy Blessed One and said, Master of the universe, if David, king of Israel, who sang so many songs and praises before you, you did not make him the Messiah, Hezekiah, Yahoo, for whom you performed all these miracles, but sang before you not one song, you'd make him the Messiah? And so this is sense that if we don't capitalize on the moment and sing, we're missing something very crucial. And not just that we're not meeting our obligation, but it's sort of like letting down the moment, and in a sense, letting down the transformative capacity of that moment. Okay. I want to shift a little bit to talking about Shir HaShirim. Yes, question.
Can I just add that it seems to me like the fact that Miriam sings
Mhm.
and the women sing
Mhm.
also feels like something they had to do.
The fact that the women sang and Miriam sang also feels like it was an obligation for them. Say it one more sentence.
To sing separately from the men, as well as with the men at first.
Right.
But to say, we are here.
Uh-huh.
You may not count our numbers, but we are here.
Right. It is a bit odd that after the whole song, the text then says Miriam and the women took their timbrels and their dances, and Miriam led the women in singing. Perhaps they had a separate experience that needed to be expressed in that moment that is different from the male experience. It also makes it seem as if the first song was all the men. Although it's not clear. The rabbis like to mix that up. It's who's leading who in what moment. Any other comments before I move to the next point? Yes?
It's proving that the women were there. I mean, there's so much exclusion of women in more,
Right.
traditional congregations that I think it's really extra important that we had our own moment.
Yes.
We were not, subjected to being behind a mechitza or up in the choir loft behind the fencing and, made to feel invisible. We were there side by side.
Mm-hmm. So just to repeat what you said, that the women's experience is not really reflected in the narrative most of the time, and it's very powerful in this moment that it shows that they're there and they expressed something and they took leadership in some way that we don't normally see. Just Eyal, and then
Oh, I was going to talk about like the music and the build-up to Shirat Hayam, just like in the parts that I read earlier. If you look at the kind of the most interesting trope there, it's like Vayodo, like and the chase. You have and Mitzrayim will chase after them. Then later on you have and they look back and saw Mitzrayim chasing after them. Like really the highlights of the song are the chase. So you really have this song build up to this moment, and so it's at least in song.
So part of the tension building is they're being chased and chased and chased, and then they see that they're saved. Last comment, then I'll move to.
From really listening to you, what I'm hearing is that how essential it is to be in the primary emotion of this. Events can happen to us that are so complex or scary or whatever that we kind of fly out of our emotions. But in that tension building and feeling it and feeling the pain, the misery, the fear, the putting it aside and feeling every moment and staying in that presence, that the best way to express emotion is song. Because you can just push, it just comes out. And I just want to say this one last thing about Miriam's dealio is her song and dance is in the present tense, not the future tense like the Song of the Sea is. So her dancing and singing brings it right into that present moment, and that sense of presence and being inside the emotions in the present moment. Like for me, that's a goal in my life to stay in my.
So that's really good though, because that makes Miriam present in our moment. It didn't happen in the past. It is happening now.
So the distinction that Charna is making is when it says that Moses led the people in songs, that Az Yashir Moshe. For some reason, it puts it in the future tense. Yashir, will sing. there's grammatical answers, but it's a choice that the text is making. And it doesn't do that with Miriam, that she sings in the present tense.
Dances.
And dances. And one of the things that song can do is feelings are welling up in you in a moment, and one way to give them expression, maybe the ideal way to give them expression, is to feel the overwhelmingness of those feelings instead of removing yourself from that, trying to give them expression and step into them. Just one little quote here from Rav Kook, the first chief rabbi of Free Israel. How does one come to make melodies and sing songs of praise? The spirit of your soul comes, and the overwhelmingness of the divine fills the heart, and your heart feels how it is too small to contain all of its sensations, and holy pleasure suffuses all of its limbs. And he continues, but the sense that like you're going to be overwhelmed, and then song bursts out. So, on the one hand, I think the model of the Song at the Sea is a model of catharsis, to bring us into presence of what we're feeling and be able to give it expression. I think I'm about to use this word incorrectly, but if anyone is a classicist, sue me. I think the model of Shir HaShirim is one of ekphrasis, which is when a poem describes something in vivid detail as if to put you there. So if the catharsis is coming, something is inside of you that needs to come out. This is something outside of you that then you can step into, which sometimes I think we notice with song. Sometimes it helps us express what we're feeling, and sometimes it causes us to feel something that we weren't feeling or noticing before. Right? Not sure if that's what ekphrasis means, but I think so. Yes?
Every Shabbat, when we stand up and we take out the Torah, that's like the climax of the service for me when I'm doing Av HaRachamim. And I keep thinking of what I'm experiencing then, and bringing it present. I don't even know what the words mean.
Right. Right.
But when we open up that ark and the Torah comes out, to me that's the climax. Every single Shabbat.
So for Francine, there's a moment in the tefillah when we take the Torah out, we sing Av HaRachamim, that it cues you in a certain way, and you feel a similar thing every time, and it feels like the climax, but it's what's happening in the tefillah, what's happening in the community, allows me to, it cues me into the moment, and the feeling of that moment of taking out the Torah and reaching that climax. And sometimes one thing that I think is really amazing about communal prayer is that, there's lots of stuff that because I know it, I don't think about it. But if I look over at Mark or Francine or Larry and I see that they're really into this prayer in this moment, then I am brought into it as well. And sometimes you learn about somebody's favorite prayer and you gain a new ability to step into it. I'll say that the Adult Education Committee is launching a series called My Favorite Prayer, which will take place on Shabbat lunches. Yes, Ed.
Do any of the Midrashim talk about what kind of song Miriam and the women sang?
What kind of song?
Yeah, like what song did they sing? Any Midrashim talk about that?
Yeah, so the text only gives us one line of Miriam's song. Maybe they sang just that one line. It happens to be the first line of the whole Song at the Sea, so maybe they also sang the whole song. Or maybe, after every line of the Song at the Sea, they repeated, Shiru l'Adonai ki ga'oga susrocho ramavayam. The next line, Shiru l'Adonai ki ga'oga susrocho ramavayam, antiphonally. Okay, so...
But it does say, and Miriam chanted for them.
Right, by ta'an lahem Miriam. Miriam, whatever that word means, ta'an. If I have time to get into that, I will. I probably won't. It usually means to respond. So it's perhaps responding to something that she's feeling, responding to the moment. She responded for them as a way of leading them. And it also is, in rabbinic tradition, understood as indicating antiphony, meaning call and response. She initiated so that people could respond, which maybe that's catharsis and maybe that's ekphrasis. Maybe she's helping them express something inside. Maybe she's bringing them somewhere by cueing them. And sometimes we need that leadership. I think that's why it's good we have a leadership model in our tefillot. We also need the followership. We need people to be able to step in wholeheartedly, and that's very difficult. So
This was all about the dance. I remember.
the dance does help. So you might have noticed when we did a few lines of the Song of Songs, it feels a bit awkward as a song, both because it's quite sensual and it's quite individual and personal. It's like a story of these two particular lovers who, even if they represent the Holy One and the people, it's still it feels like we're stepping in on somebody's private life. Even if it's one of the characters is us. The other one is like, I don't know, I'm not supposed to be looking at this. And if you read through the whole book, and I did this last night with this version translated by Rabbi Aryeh Clapper, where he separates out the different voices. It actually has a narrative that is quite sad. It's not just a story of these two lovers loving each other. It's a story of these two lovers who keep missing each other. They almost connect, and then they pass each other by. And the climax of this story, I think, comes at this moment when the woman, the Shulamit, is in her bed. She's already gotten ready for bed. She's brushed her teeth, etc. And she hears the voice of her beloved knocking, Kol di dofe. And she says, I've already taken off my clothes. Am I supposed to put them on again? I've already taken my shoes off. I've washed my feet. Am I going to get up? But then she does. By the time she reaches the door handle, he's gone. And then she goes to seek him in the streets. And it does not turn out well for her. But they might come back together at the end. It's not clear. But it's a story of longing. And it's an expression of love, but love even with missed connection. And that's one of the reasons that the commentators say we read it on Passover, because it teaches us how, even if, I don't actually like the versions of this translation which allegorize every single verse. I think the point is to read this sad love story, and it teaches us how to love even when we miss connection with God. How can we love God in the midst of not exactly being as free as we want to be in our lives? Not exactly being fully yet at the moment of the transformed world that we think it would be so easy to love God. And I think that's really important on Pesach, that we do go free every year, but every year we're also not fully free. But that doesn't have to stop us from fully inhabiting that love and fully inhabiting that song. Is there another quote I wanted to bring? No. So, Sforno, for instance, says it's called Shir HaShirim, the Song of All Songs, because it teaches us something about song, which is how to love when you feel a lot of different things at once. So I think I'm going to wrap this up and let us sit with it. But I think both from the model of Shir HaHayam and Shir HaShirim, my goal is to help us step more fully into our song, and I think we need to do that in a few ways. One is to recognize when we are already feeling something that's weighing on us, the song might be an opportunity to focus on that and to express it, where you don't actually have to leave the thing you're feeling in order to sing. The way to sing would be to step fully into what you're feeling. And if it's bringing up for you something you don't want to feel, it's important to remember that you can feel totally full of love and full of longing and sadness and missed opportunity and tragedy. And those things are deeply connected. That the reason you're feeling something uncomfortable is because you're connected and you care and you feel love. And I would say it is not unusual, and you shouldn't feel bad for wanting to not feel something that is uncomfortable, but it will stop you from fully being able to sing. And so, I think I'm going to end here. My bracha to us all is that whatever the song arises in us, whether it's cueing us into something, positive or negative or neutral, or whether it's expressing something we were already feeling, we allow ourselves to give it expression through the song. And that sometimes it's helpful to have other people around, sometimes it's helpful to close your eyes, sometimes it's helpful to take your own space, sometimes it's helpful to be close together. But it does require us to decide to feel it. And so my bracha is that we're able to, I think I'm gonna end there. My bracha is that we're able to feel whatever it brings up for us so that we can fully praise and release whatever needs to be released. Shalom.